This is the State of the Society report of New York Yearly Meeting, delivered at Summer Sessions 2017. This report summarizes the 60 State of Meeting reports submitted. It also includes ministry from Marissa Badgley, following a brief period of silence. In this past year, friends across New York Yearly Meeting have experienced joy and grief, hope and despair, growth, stagnation, and loss. We have felt the pain of division and the wonder of unity. We have found strength and comfort in silence. We have found power in our collective and not so silent cries for justice. We have illuminated the infinite love of God and found great openings. We have also encountered deep oceans of darkness and impiety. Sometimes these oceans distract, overwhelm, or completely engulf us. We are grateful for the elders, communities, friends, and spirit that remind us of and ground us in the light. In unusual times, we are learning to be brave in addition to being faithful. November's elections and the current political climate are on our minds and have profoundly shaped the present state of our religious society. However, even though over 60% of meetings made mention of politics, the words election, politics, president, government, and Trump came up 40 times in 60 reports. This is not what defines us. Joy, gratitude, hope, faith, trust, love, community, and justice each had more mentions unto themselves than all comments related to worldly political challenges. These words came up 450 times, a powerful lesson in perspective. The news and our social media accounts do not define the state of New York Yearly Meeting or our monthly meetings. We may grieve for our divided nation, and some may be destabilized by the pain and anguish around us. But we continue to witness to others in love, to hold space for the pain of the world. We refuse to surrender to our fears or to be lost in our concerns, and we understand that this moment in history provides opportunity to share the truth. It is also a moment for us to consider what it truly means to love our enemies and to pray for those who persecute us. We know and trust that God is with us. We are listening. In a statement circulated in November, our General Secretary prompted each of us to consider what and in what we trust. This year's State of the Meeting reports confirm that our trust is abundant. So too are there opportunities for growing our faith. We trust in our worship and practice as friends. 37% of meetings express that they feel worship is deep, grounded, and alive. Silence is powerful. Messages are gifts. Many of us continue to seek ways to deepen the quality of ministry, and some of us are searching for deeper experiences in worship. To this end, we are working to expand the quality of our listening, recognizing that when we allow Spirit to speak to us or through us, we connect to each other and all of creation, entering a healing and loving communion, creating sacred space. We don't always trust that Spirit is at the core of meeting practices. We seek divine guidance on how to balance urgency for witness and activism with faithful Quaker process, discernment, and spiritual nurture. We recognize that it is difficult to practice the testimonies without getting too vocal about the political, and we find ourselves having some difficulty distinguishing between making political statements and giving messages from Spirit. We strive to protect the discipline of expectant waiting and to lift up our commitment to deep listening and respect for all, even those with whom we disagree. One meeting admits, we usually treat one another respectfully, but we confess, not fully clear of sniping and eye-rolling. We attempt to lay our egos and individual opinions aside to make way for love, understanding, and truth. We don't always trust that our traditions fit. We trust in continuing revelation. Many of our meetings are in a state of transition and are rethinking traditions and practices that may no longer be relevant or helpful in creating the beloved community. We are reconsidering committee structures, membership processes, individual responsibilities, the role of clerks and trustees, and the frequency and form of meetings for worship with a concern for business. In June 2016, young adults from around the world gathered for quite possibly the first ever Quaker party, and in 2017, our young adult field secretary started Qued Days. We are experimenting with social media, hashtags, memes, podcasts, blogs, and virtual meeting structures. Some of us are not comfortable with such change and are worried about straying too far from what we are used to. Others of us feel that such envisioning is necessary to surviving in an increasingly transient and diverse 21st century. We will continue to listen for divine guidance. We trust in our community and love for each other. In all of our quirks and limitations, we are strong in our love for each other and are grateful for the living Holy Spirit among us. 28% of reports mention deep, abiding love amongst members, and 35% call out the strength of the meeting community. We foster love and unity by caring for each other, by asking for ourselves and others to be held in the light, by making ourselves available in tender and loving ways. We strive to create safe and brave spaces for friends to explore, experiment with, and live out their faith in practice. We are grateful for the activities and opportunities for fellowship that connect us, for the myriad ways that we work and play together. A member at one of our meetings puts it this way: when I think of the meeting as an organization with committee structures and concerns to address, I feel overwhelmed and feel that we are lacking in membership resources and skills. When I think of the meeting as a family, sharing life, facing loss, addressing challenges, celebrating love, and building support and trust, I feel deeply grateful and see this whole thing as a miracle. We trust in our children. Children around the yearly meeting expressed gratitude for pillow fights, bagels, singing, George Fox Lego books, lighting candles, and having fun. One child said that meeting was as good as a play date, and another shared, "There is something different every week. Sitting in silence can be kind of long and boring. The adults are sitting and listening for God. We are sitting and waiting." Some children shared that we, Quakers, could learn to respect and listen better. We could also have more fun. With the help of our new-ish Children and Youth Field Secretary, we are growing in our willingness and capacity to support, engage, and include our children in the life of our meetings. This year, at least 8 meetings intentionally involved children in the writing of their State of Meeting reports, and this remarkable effort unto itself demonstrates that we are getting better at integrating young people into our worship, soliciting their ideas, involving them in business, and teaching them about Quakerism. 3 monthly meetings in New York and New England yearly meetings are also engaged with the Partnership Project, a 3-year project designed to help meetings explore new ways of nurturing multi-generational community. Across our yearly meeting, we are beginning to focus on creating regular, reliable, and authentic environments and activities that meet the needs of our children, rather than merely finding things for them to do in the meantime. We are learning how to take their words and wisdom seriously, and we are stronger for it. We trust in our growth. As a yearly meeting, we are growing in numbers and in faith. While 42% of meetings mentioned being small, 42% reported increased attenders this year, and 25% reported that their membership has grown. New attenders and members are giving us new hope that our meetings will continue to spread God's love into the next generation. We are grateful for new substance, strength, and joy, and seem to feel that we have a greater capacity to connect and to give. We are a tenacious group, traveling with the movement of the Spirit, which has its own direction and one we seem willing to share and contribute to, no matter our numbers. Perhaps as a result of this optimistic perspective, we feel that our presence is slowly becoming discovered. We don't always trust that people will come or stay. Many of us are laboring with diminishing numbers and uncertainty. We feel broken when people leave. We feel helpless when we put effort into planning and few people come. We wonder why people who hold our meetings dear do not attend worship regularly. We wonder why people come for a while and then stop with no explanation. We wonder how to best engage people who come from time to time. We wonder how to welcome people and how to provide hospitality, support, and information without being overwhelming. At least 15% of us feel that this has been an area of growth over the last year, and the new outreach working group is helping us explore how to better receive and engage new attenders and seekers. There is hope. We trust in our commitment to confront injustice. We know that change begins with us, and we work to improve the human condition and support social justice issues both locally and at a distance. More than half of us mentioned witness activities as central to our meetings activities. At least 50% of our meetings sent representatives to the White Privilege Conference. 20% mentioned a commitment to confronting racism. And the Friends Center for Racial Justice in Ithaca was born. Across the yearly meeting, we share a commitment to defend the most vulnerable among us. And we lead and support reform efforts related to immigration, refugee policies, police brutality, religious persecution, prison conditions, gun violence, healthcare, housing, and the environment, and even more. We recognize the importance of supporting the rising ministries and leadings of individuals within our meetings who are actively engaged in or led to pursue social justice work. We are also sometimes hungry for more discernment around communal ministries and wonder how we are collectively led to act. We are grateful for the activists and champions among us. We trust in diversity. Our actions do not always align with this trust. We do not all believe the same things or use the same language, but our mutual intention as seekers draws us in and holds us together in gathered community. 20% of us expressed gratitude for the range of spiritual beliefs in our meetings. Others feel we would benefit from more diversity across political and cultural lines. We know that we are strengthened by our identity, individuality, diversity of experiences, and differences in perceptions. Though we may sometimes be judgmental of one another's actions and ministries, we remind ourselves that each is given the divine light through different eyes and that each walks in different places on the journey. At the same time, we tend to surround ourselves with, extend welcome to, and even nominate and hire like-minded, like-looking, and like-behaving friends. Often these tendencies are inadvertent, and other times we are guilty of deliberate exclusion, omission, or disregard. In either case, it is painful for many of us, and we are challenged to be better. We trust in our communities. Our meetings cherish and acknowledge their place within their neighborhoods and communities. 25% of us list outreach and sharing the good news as a commitment. Almost 15% of us mentioned sharing meeting house space with other faith and community groups. We have polished our websites and newsletters, hung welcome banners in multiple languages, participated in interfaith gatherings and local events, and hosted our own events to further engage our communities. We are looking for and finding new opportunities for visibility and know that sharing our truth is important, especially in hard times. We don't always trust that we know what to do. Answers to challenging questions sometimes evade us, and have in some cases been evading us for years. We seek divine guidance to lead us when we feel in the dark about a response or when we are unsure of how to make a decision that speaks to all the members of our communities. Sometimes we question our understanding of Quaker process. Other times, we do not know how to move forward because there is so much going on, and we lack the tools or capacity to find unity. We attempt to see these moments of uncertainty as fertile opportunities to connect with new roots before bringing responses to the light. A prayer was offered at our March meetings for discernment. Dear God, we are listening. Many of us are already faithfully doing all that we can imagine. Help us to open up to what you might do that is beyond what we can imagine. We try to be patient and trust that way will open. We don't always trust that we are going to survive or that there is enough time, energy, money, or people. 28% of meetings are concerned about not having enough people to do the work, and it is frustrating when we desire to do more than what our small membership and limited resources allow. Our meetings are busy, full of busy people, and many members feel stretched thin. Many of us feel the burden of maintaining meeting houses, supporting young families, and remaining both politically and faithfully active. At least 5 of our meetings worry about their future and long-term viability. Yet one meeting expresses that the lack of available skilled hands has allowed soul-searching about the real fundamental meaning of the meeting and what we are really called to do. We wonder if perhaps the workers are so few so that we may be better able to hear what we are supposed to do. Friends call us to be committed to the same faithfulness as long as we are here. We trust in our history. We are proud of our Quaker heritage, even as we are aware of our past faults, missteps, and complicity in injustices. We celebrate and remember those who came before us and the people we have lost. We feel that they are present in our hearts, in our worship, and sometimes even within our meeting house walls. We remind ourselves that we are not only a summation of our past, but a continuation of our responsibility as spiritual human beings. Though perhaps revealed in new or more frightening ways, many of our challenges, both worldly and otherworldly, have been experienced before. This year, Adirondack Meeting celebrates its 250th birthday. We will survive. So now we're going to play a game. There are 3 quotations here, and you are going to think about when they were written or spoken. I'm going to read the 3 quotations out loud for you. If you ask any intelligent friends from any of our meetings whether the ministry they hear from week to week satisfies their spiritual needs, I venture to say that the great majority will answer in the negative. Many will have to tell you that they have no resident ministry at all. Others will reply that they have plenty of speaking, but very little true ministry. Some will have a mournful story to tell of weekly harangues and stereotyped cadence or monotone, which have been emptied the meeting house of nearly all the thoughtful young people belonging to the congregation, driven elsewhere for the spiritual food and instruction they had looked for in vain from those of their own communion. Take a moment and think about when that was written or spoken. The answer is in 1892. Sounds familiar. Number 2. We must somehow appoint more younger friends to committees or groups which direct the course of yearly meeting activities. By younger friends, it is not necessarily meant teenager or those in their 20s. These should be given serious consideration for appointment, but the main concern here points out the fact that of the 140 persons appointed to representative meeting, it seems that not more than 6 or 8 are under 40. When do you think this quotation was from? The answer was 1970, George Badgley in his final address as General Secretary. Last but certainly not least, number 3. We friends talk a lot about outreach. Perhaps we should talk more of reaching out. This is a grand and awful time, and we need human beings to match and redeem these times. We are not saints. We are still seekers. but we are also finders of a way which has been spelled out in our advices and queries. When do you think this quote is from? And the answer is 1975 in the State of Society report. I will repeat something that I just said. Though perhaps revealed in new or more frightening ways, many of our challenges, both worldly and otherworldly, have been experienced before. We will survive. In 2017, New York Yearly Meeting friends seek to be brave, to continue putting God at the center even when we are fearful or discouraged. We seek to build bridges between ourselves and our communities, and we seek to reimagine what we know and what we think we know. We seek to take advantage of the opportunities that are being given, even if these opportunities arise out of darkness. We seek to claim, name, and share the truth as we experience it. And at the same time that we reach out, we seek to reach in. For we trust that when we are aligned with God, our resources of abilities and gifts are multiplied by many times. We trust in the divine source of love. This trust is unshakable. Friends, the words that are written and that have been shared to this point are true insofar as they summarize the state of meeting reports that your meetings prepared. We studied those reports faithfully, and Spirit helped us find the truth that was rising. However, over the last several months, God has made it clear that I am supposed to share another message as a part of this work. This message is not a part of the approved State of Society report. The words are my own and grounded in my own experiences with New York Yearly Meeting this past year. I trust that you will keep your hearts open for a short while longer. Friends, there are those among you that are sitting here feeling very good about this presentation. You are feeling pleased by how much we have done in this past year. You may be feeling proud of how great we are. Look at those Quakers out there changing the world. You're probably feeling hopeful because a young adult is up here giving this report. These feelings are not misguided. There is much to be proud of and good reason to have hope. Yet I wonder if our pride and self-congratulatory natures blind us to our true condition. We feel good about what we are doing, and we are doing good work. I wonder if we are doing God's work. As we sit to consider the state of our meetings and the state of our yearly meeting, do we strive to put feathers in our cap or to truly listen to where we are? Are we self-satisfied or spiritually satisfied? Do we know the difference? Do we care? I wonder about these things because the reports I've read do not always align with the stories I hear. Earlier this year, a friend spoke to me at length about a conflict that was causing her and her community great pain. She expressed that she didn't know if her meeting would survive it. She ended the conversation by saying, "But don't worry, we didn't put that in the State of Meeting report." As if sharing those words or sharing that story would have hurt me or compromised the integrity of our committee's work. Our omissions speak loudly and keep us from the truth. Our conflicts and challenges are deeper than those expressed in the reports this year. So too are our joys. But we must rise to our challenges and have the courage to name them so that we can see them. So we know that they're there, so we can do something about them. In another case a few months ago, I listened to a young adult speak about how lost and disconnected he has been feeling. Despite having grown up in a meeting and being tied to many meetings, He has not found a spiritual home in his adulthood because he doesn't feel like he fits in or feels like a child in the eyes of members. So he doesn't go to meeting. And here's the kicker. Neither his home meeting, nor any other meeting for that matter, mentioned or considered the nurture or presence of young adults in their state of meeting reports this year. Not a single report for the second year in a row. We talk a lot about outreach and how to bring people in. I fear that we do not realize that we are at risk of losing the people we already have. I'm one of them. I know there are others in this room, and it's not all young adults. How does that fit into the current state of our society? So yes, it is true that I am a young adult standing before you, and maybe you should feel hopeful because I am still here, and I am a product of your nurture and the ministry I have heard between these walls and many others. But this year, I am the only person here from my JYM class. I'm sorry, I'm one of 2 people here from my JYM class. I wonder how many of you have children or even grandchildren who grew up here, but who are not present today. Have we forgotten them? Do we ask after them? In their absence, are we as strong as we could be? Did we do everything we could for them while they were among us? Now let me be clear. I'm not talking about scarcity as the problem. We should be grateful for who is here, even if the numbers are few. But this week, we are talking about bringing the peaceable kingdom to the world. If our children and young people, or anyone else for that matter, aren't here, don't feel like they belong here, or don't feel that they can be here, I wonder if we have a peaceable kingdom to bring. Isaiah chapter 11 reads, "The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the goat, the cow and the lion and the yearling together, and a little child shall lead them." In New York Yearly Meeting, who are the wolves, the lambs, the cows, and the lions? Are we all represented here? Is it safe for us, all of us, to live together, work together, play together, worship together? Are we preparing our children to lead us? Are we prepared to trust them to lead us? Are you prepared to trust me? To trust that things may not be how they have always been? To trust that the greatest things that we will ever achieve are ahead of us and not behind us? And ahead of us meaning that we may all be dead, even me? To trust in the goodness of God over the goodness of ourselves? Listen to the small voice inside you that responds when I ask you these questions. The peaceable kingdom, as described in the book of Isaiah, requires trust beyond that which is described in the State of Society report this year. This type of absolute trust is not possible if we are more concerned with the turbulence of the outside world than we are about the answers to the questions I pose. Turbulence distracts us. When we focus on the turbulence, we lose sight of what is steady and stable. When we focus on the terrifying lurch of our stomachs when the plane drops, we forget about the air that holds us, the light that centers us, the divine that guides us. And it's terrifying and exhausting and sometimes isolating. I wonder if we have the courage and willingness to lay aside our self-satisfaction for what we have done to address turbulence and truly open ourselves to what Spirit is calling us to do, here and now, not there and then. For when the storms of life come, we survive because our foundations are strong. We must set aside our desire to be spiritual heroes and listen for and be guided by the gentle whisper that tempers our fears, awakens our souls, and brings us together in beloved community. I invite us to trust that gentle whisper, even if it is not as loud or demanding or impatient as we are. I invite us to trust that gentle whisper, even if it is not as quiet or humble or patient as we are. I invite us to continue trusting in our worship and practice as friends, in our traditions and in continuing revelation, in our communities and love for each other, in our children and in our growth. I invite us to continue trusting in our commitment to confront injustice, in our diversity and in our history. I invite us to trust in our goats and sheep and lions and leopards and cows and horses and horseflies and earthworms. I invite us to trust in God, for then we will know God, and then and only then, in my opinion, will we be successful in creating and sharing the peaceable kingdom. I trust that we are closer than we might imagine. What do you trust?